It was a crisp morning in July when the sirens first shattered the quiet around Willowbrook Lake Estates. At 7:06 a.m., I found myself surrounded by sheriff's cruisers, a fire department hazmat unit, state environmental inspectors, and code enforcement officers, all converging on my property because I was installing the first pilings for a wheelchair-accessible floating dock meant to serve disabled veterans. Standing behind them on her deck, arms crossed and chin high in silk pajamas, was Janet Harwick, our HOA president of 15 years. "He's contaminating the lake," she shouted. "He's destroying community property with illegal commercial construction." Community property. That phrase hit me like a wake-up call. While she weaponized emergency services to halt a charity project inspired by my late wife Emma's dying wish, something felt deeply off. 3 days later, after her husband's law firm began firing off threat letters, I headed to the county courthouse basement myself. Hours spent sifting through dusty plats, easements, tax records, and faded deeds from the 1960s revealed the truth. The lake, the road, the clubhouse, the boat launch, none of it was truly theirs. A temporary 6-month easement for construction access, granted on June 1, 1982, had expired on December 31 that same year. No renewals, no amendments, no permanent rights ever recorded. For more than 4 decades, the entire community had been crossing my land without legal basis. My name is Clayton Merrick. I'm 58, a semi-retired marine engineer who spent 30 years designing docks and adaptive waterfront facilities. 3 years earlier, cancer took Emma, the love of my life. Her final wish was to create an adaptive sailing program for disabled veterans, people like my friend Chuck, who lost a leg in Afghanistan, or Sarah Martinez, who battled severe PTSD and rarely left her apartment. Emma believed the water could heal what war had shattered. So I kept her dream alive, turning our garage into a workshop and planning the Emma Adaptive Sailing Center, ramps, adaptive rigging, a therapy pavilion, everything needed for veterans to sail safely. Willowbrook Lake Estates is a beautiful place. 85 upscale homes circling a pristine 40-acre lake, average value around $800,000. Joggers, loons calling across the mist, the crunch of luxury tires on gravel. But Janet, 52, luxury real estate agent with a honeyed southern drawl hiding iron control, saw the lake as her personal country club. She'd inherited a mansion and guarded standards with gossip networks and intimidation. A program bringing in veterans threatened her exclusive paradise. The raid wasn't the end, it was the beginning. My permits were all valid: Army Corps, State Environmental, County Building, Coast Guard Safety. Yet the work stoppage hit hard. My contractor walked, fearing liability. Deposits vanished, $15,000 in equipment, custom adaptive gear canceled. Neighbors began avoiding me on morning walks. Even Chuck wondered if the project was worth the drama. Janet's smear campaign painted me as reckless, dangerous, a threat to their lake. Sleepless nights staring at Emma's photo became my routine. "They're trying to kill your dream, sweetheart," I'd whisper. "But you always said fight smart." So I did. I hired a top land surveyor, installed 16 high-def security cameras along the shoreline, and dove deeper into records. The survey was devastating. The clubhouse sat 15 feet over my boundary, the boat ramp fully on my land, the community beach 60% unauthorized. Under the fixtures doctrine, structures built on another's property become the landowners. Legally, I owned their $200,000 clubhouse. Then came the bombshell footage. At 2:47 a.m. one Friday, cameras captured Janet's landscaping crew dumping drums of fertilizer and herbicide straight into the lake, illegal disposal to dodge hazardous waste fees. Clear faces, plates, labels readable in infrared. The same people accusing me of environmental harm were poisoning the water Emma loved. Federal Clean Water Act violations, up to $50,000 per incident. I compiled everything: surveys, footage, expired easement, unpaid back taxes on the access area totaling $18,000, voiding any adverse possession claim. My attorney, Maria Santos, called it a slam dunk. I could revoke access entirely, claim damages for decades of trespass, pursue environmental crimes. No obligation to provide alternatives. The community that had called me a criminal had been committing one for 43 years. Janet escalated, a landscaper, accidentally rammed my truck with a backhoe, trash dumped in my driveway, anonymous threats, false reports to Veterans Affairs. Stress triggered Old Navy injuries and PTSD flares. But escalation meant they were scared. I built in secret a hydraulic gate system across the only road, 12-foot steel barriers rising in 27 seconds, remote activated, battery backed, disguised as landscaping upgrades. The trap closed on July 4th. Janet's big community festival drew 300 people, barbecue, band, kids, news crews, all parking on what turned out to be my property. At 2:47 p.m., from a concealed spot, I activated the gates. Steel rose like judgment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Festival music died. Janet screamed for my arrest. Sheriff Daniels, after reviewing documents, confirmed I was within my rights. I took the mic. For 43 years, they trespassed illegally. Today, I reclaimed control. Evidence flashed on the big screen: expired easement, survey maps, chemical dumping footage. Environmental officers served Janet warrants for federal violations. She was led away in handcuffs amid patriotic decorations. Perfect irony. The aftermath was swift. Federal court upheld revocation. No good faith basis remained after their crimes. HOA dissolved. Property values cratered. 40 to 60% drops without lake access. Many sold at huge losses. I received $550,000 in compensation for unpaid fees, environmental restoration, damages. But money wasn't the point. Using the funds, I built the Emma Adaptive Sailing Center exactly as dreamed: 12 wheelchair-accessible boats, PTSD counseling pavilion, serving dozens of veterans monthly. Fish populations recovered. The lake, once poisoned by greed, now heals warriors broken by war. Every morning I still sit on the dock with coffee and Emma's photo, watching veterans sail free on clean water. Promise kept. Legacy honored. Justice doesn't always come fast, but when it arrives, with surveys, cameras, and an engineer's precision, it's worth every dusty hour in the courthouse basement. If you've got your own HOA nightmare, share it below. These stories remind us: always check those easements, demand transparency, and never assume tradition equals rights. Thanks for listening to HOA Stories, where entitled power trips meet hard reality. Like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more tales of everyday justice. Next up, the landlord who kept my deposit until he learned he didn't own the building. See you then.